everyone. Welcome to another episode of Taking Up Space, a Michelle Mayer podcast. Always excited about coming forward with a conversation for you all. Today's no different. I don't know what episode we're on. I think we're on episode 41 or 42 today. But nonetheless, I want to come forward and speak to something I saw on social media last week or a few days ago about, it was like a spoken word dictation type of thing where a guy was talking about what sets a lion apart. What makes the lion truly the king of the jungle? Is it because the lion is the strongest animal in the jungle? No. Is it because the lion is the smartest animal in the jungle? No. Friend, what sets the lion apart and the lioness apart as the kings and the queens of the jungle is their mindset. See, it's a fixed mindset that the lion has on how it sees itself in its environment. You never see a lion moping around and saddened and defeated and all of these different things. Even when they're frustrated, they keep a kingly and a queenly aspect to themselves. They never default down. You never see that. And I guess you could say that within all the animals within the animal kingdom. They pretty much stay true to the program that they are birthed into. And it made me think, wow, isn't that interesting? First thing I thought was Joseph. First person I thought of when I listened to this short clip was of Joseph. And how Joseph had to have had a very strong knowing of himself. See, we all know that Joseph was his father's favorite son, and that because of the love that his father showed to Joseph, it made a very volatile situation amongst his other brothers. So much so that they sold Joseph into slavery. But prior to them selling Joseph into slavery, you guys, what brought this on, the final straw of it, was Joseph was a dreamer. And as all dreamers, Joseph is harmless. Joseph just wants to tell people what Joseph sees. Because Joseph feels as though, I have no ill intention to you. There's nothing that I need to hide from you so that you can feel okay with me, because I come bearing no arms. I just come to tell you the truth of what I see. And I want to share it with you, this excitement with you, with the hopes that you'll be excited as well, because it's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing for God to bless any one of us. I'm sure if Joseph's brothers had came to Joseph with such a thing, that Joseph would have been just as happy to hear it. But his brothers didn't want to hear anything that Joseph had to say, whether good or bad. Honestly, I believe his brothers would have been more happy had Joseph come forward and spoke a defeating word to them. It would have made them feel a little bit more in common with Joseph. They would have felt a little bit more relaxed. They would have been like, okay, I can relate to him more now. If Joseph would have came and said, you know, God showed me in a dream that I'm going to go through all of this negativity and all this and that, and I would be under your thumbs and you all will be doing all these terrible things to me, they would have been better suited to hear that. They would have embraced that more than Joseph coming forward each and every time, speaking good news that God is telling Joseph about what he is going to do within their family. And Joseph comes, I don't remember exactly what the verbiage was, but Joseph comes and says, you know, God showed me in a dream that the sun, the moon, and the stars are all going to bow. He didn't say exactly, but they're all going to bow to me. And his brothers are sitting there like, okay, here we go again with another one of these dreams this dude is having. Okay, here he comes with another one of these dreams. And he's the star of the dream. Oh, so you're saying that we're going to bow to you now is what they said to him. You're saying God has told you in a dream that we're going to bow to you. Now, this is the part that gets me. If it was just a dream and they didn't really believe Joseph, they could have dismissed it. But the fact that they took it to heart and the fact that they sat on it, and then when they caught him in a vulnerable state, done nothing to provoke it, came actually to help them. They attack him and throw him in a pit. All based upon the love his father had for him and the gift that he had within himself and the love that God had over him. Because friends, if Joseph's brothers didn't believe what Joseph had said to be true, they would have paid him no mind. Joseph would have carried no weight in their eyes. But the fact that they knew that the hand of God was over Joseph, and the fact that they knew that his father, their father, loved Joseph, was something that they could not manipulate. See, people are okay with you, friend, when they can go and compete with you on tangible things of life. Outdo you in jobs, outdo you, with material items, outdo you with intellect or what have you, study on a topic more, whatever that is. They feel fine when they can compete with you on the tangible things of life. But when they feel that their hands are tied and they have no way of competing with you on certain things, state of mind, the way you see the world, the way you always default back to a powerful place within your own mind that is empowering and capable. The fact that maybe they see God in you, they see God's hand over your life is undeniable, and they can do nothing about it. The fact that there is someone in the world that loves you dearly, openly, that does not deny it. And there's nothing that they can do to contaminate that love. Because that love is protected by God. Those are the worst enemies you could ever have in life. Because that's not even envy. That's not even jealousy. That is gone unchecked, turns into the worst kind of hate. It'll fester. And they'll do whatever they can to get rid of you. Just because seeing you makes them feel terrible. And this was Joseph's situation. And Joseph's situation was within his own household. He didn't even know the level of hate that his brothers had for him. No one can convince me. So much so, his father didn't even know. Jacob didn't even see the level of hate that was festering in his own household amongst his own sons. Because had he seen it, he would not have sent Joseph by himself out there to them. These are things we have to pay attention to in life. Many of us come in and out of these kind of situations amongst people that hate us, or I don't even want to say hate us, that dislike us on levels that we don't even understand. Because we're not coming from that. We don't live in that place. And on the surface, it looks as if it's something else. It looks as if, yes, they may be a little resentful to it. But and a lot of times you want to play into it, and you want to show that you're there for them even more, and you want to do all the little things you can to one moment. I dropped my cards. You want to do all the little things you can to to reinforce that you're a team player, that you come in peace, that you mean no harm. Yet there's nothing you can ever say or do to these people, because those people, his brothers, suffered from an internal problem. It really didn't have anything to do with Joseph. But they blamed it on Joseph, and they felt like if we can get rid of Joseph, all of our problems will be solved. So they throw Joseph in the pit. Long story short, I done mixed up my cards. Long story short, they throw Joseph in the pit. Joseph is sold into slavery for 20 shekels of silver. He's sold into slavery for cheap. Cheap. Joseph was about 17 years old when he was sold into slavery. And what impresses me about the story, I'm getting somewhere with this, obviously. What impresses me about the story is that those that brought Joseph saw within Joseph something very worthy. So worthy that they took Joseph to the most powerful kingdom in the world at the time, which was Egypt. They took Joseph to Egypt. And they sold him. They took him to Potiphar, which was a governor, I believe, in the Pharaoh's house. High-ranking official. They had to bypass many people to get the green light to get Joseph in front of Potiphar. You don't just get in front of the governor. You don't get in front of high-ranking people like that by default. You got to know people. And those people have to check Joseph. Those people have to know the reputation of the people that are bringing Joseph. So that tells me these aren't just anybody's. And his brothers sold him for such cheap money because they just wanted to get rid of him. They had to get rid of him quickly. So in their haste, they forfeited the financial benefit for just getting rid of him. Because they knew the longer they had Joseph in that pit, God was going to send a vessel of help for Joseph. There was no doubt about it. So let's get rid of him quickly and be done with this, and we'll go back and create a story and tell our dad that happened to him. Nonetheless, Joseph gets in front of Potiphar. And Potiphar is saying, wow, what type of where'd you get this guy from? Because he doesn't seem like a slave. Neither does he seem like his father was a slave. He don't come from that. By looking at Joseph, by talking with Joseph, he's able to see on sight the quality of this individual. And those that bought Joseph for 20 shekels of silver from his brothers sold Joseph for 400 shekels of silver to the high-ranking official in the Egyptian kingdom. That's 20 times the amount that they bought Joseph for. Where did they do this at? Potiphar brings Joseph into his house and makes Joseph king of the castle. There's no one higher in Potiphar's house than Joseph. No one. All based off of who Joseph is. This is a slave. Potiphar bought this man as a slave. There is no reputation for the children of Israel at the time. Yet the people in the countryside, all throughout the kingdoms of the world, know the power of the God of Israel by way of the covenant that the God of Israel made with Abraham. And what is that covenant? That through you, all nations will be blessed. That is a promise, y'all. That is a promise. You come with blessings. You come with curses too. When they mistreat you, they have cursed themselves. This is the promise. You must know the crown that you wear. You got to know it. And if only one of you get this, I've done my job. Because I walk this. Joseph becomes master in Potiphar's house. Joseph is a networker. Joseph is a scrapper. Joseph is one of them people that he has to constantly self-motivate. He makes the best out of situations. Some may call him a hustler nowadays. Joseph makes the best out of whatever he's in. You can't tell me that Joseph didn't get depressed and down and all of that. Yes, he did, I'm sure, but he got back up. And the hand of God, the promise that was over him, and the love of his father and them that have come before him kept him pushing forward. There could not be a bad place Joseph would have landed in because of the blessings that were over him. And not even because of the blessings, y'all. See, a lot of us have blessings over us, but our actions defy the blessings. We have blessings that many of us are still living off of the blessings that our grandmothers have blessed upon us. Many of us have, if you're like me, you come from a powerful, you come from women of power and men of power that know how to pray and that love their family. Respect the integrity of a family. And that love does not die off when the physical body fades away. That love is still there, friend. And this is the love that covered Joseph. And this is the love that covers each and every one of us. Yet through your actions, you will allow that love to not be able to show its full power. You have to stand in alignment to get the maximum covering. You can't just be out here doing stuff any kind of way and expect to get that type of covering. This was Joseph. Joseph was able to honor the integrity of all of them people that have come before him. He was able to honor the integrity of the covenant of God. He was able to walk upright with good character and humility throughout all the hate that he experienced. And he experienced hate. Jealousy is just not even a strong enough word. They were so jealous of Joseph, envious, hateful, because of the favor of God. And the favor was on sight. When he opened his mouth and spoke, you could see it, and you could see it with your eyes. You can't tell me that that it wasn't that way. Because if it wasn't, how would have those that bought him for 20 shekels of silver known the worth of him as they did? These people don't know Joseph. But when you have the covering of God, friend, when you have the favor of God, and when you walk in the knowledge of God within you, it's undeniable. It's that something that you can't put your finger on that blesses everywhere you go. Everywhere you go, you will bless that place. This is what Jesus spoke to when he told his disciples, go, and if they don't accept you, don't argue with them. Just turn away and keep going. Because they have harmed themselves. This is the covering that God had gave to Abraham. This is the promise, friend. But the promise comes with responsibilities. Nonetheless, Joseph was able to honor the responsibility. Joseph was able to walk through all the hills and valleys, all the hate, all the hurt, all the lies, all the naysayers, all the hypocrisy, all of it. Because he knew who he was as a child of God. Just like I gave you the analogy of the lion doesn't get defeated mentally, because the lion is programmed to know who the lion is as it relates to the hierarchy of the jungle. It does not forget that. Joseph never forgot that he was Jacob's son. He never forgot the stories that Jacob poured into all of his sons, more than likely, in telling them the story of God's hand over Abraham and all of Abram's descendants, and how Joseph related to that. And it's fair to say Joseph took pride in that. He wore that like a badge of honor. And he did everything he needed to do to stay in alignment to it. Pharaoh blesses Joseph. Nonetheless, Joseph gets thrown in jail. I'll skip this. Joseph gets thrown in prison because he gets hated on again by Potiphar's wife. He gets thrown in jail. He keeps getting thrown in these prisons. And it made me think, what is a prison? Many of us think a prison is a cell, like some of y'all watching me in prison. Friend, some of y'all watching me in prison, in the prison of your mind. Whether you're on the streets in your own home or you're in a confined, controlled environment. I've been locked in the prison of my own mind at times, friend. Right now, today, I'm not even going to front on you. I'm locked at times in the prison of my mind, friend. Just trying to navigate my way through situations. You ever been there? Where you don't really know what to do? You ever been in a place where you're not motivated? Remember the times in life when you was a go-get-em tiger? Nobody ever had to motivate me. I've always been motivated. Anybody that know me know that. Any of y'all watching this and know me know. I don't need a pep talk. I'm not the pep talk kind of girl. I'm usually the one giving the pep talk. But I have found myself, friend, in the strangest places where I myself needed a pep talk and I ain't had nobody to give me one. I had to really pull from the memory of all that I know of God, all the love that I know of them people that have come before me to motivate me. Because I didn't have anybody here to say, okay, look at it from this perspective. I didn't have anyone here to speak life to me and remind me of all the things that I've come out of courageously. I had to remind myself. And many of you watching this video are going through this same thing while you are in your current prisons within your mind. And this is why I'm bringing this video up. Joseph had to do just that, friend. Joseph had to remind himself of God's promise. Joseph had to constantly keep going in the middle of traumatic experiences, of being hurt, of being disappointed, of being depressed. He still had to keep going. Coming in and out of the most terrible situations, unnecessary stuff, highly unnecessary stuff. He keeps going. He finds himself in Potiphar's house. He thinks he can relax. And then boom, he's sent into prison, lied on by a disintegrous person. Because Joseph showed integrity. He gets put in prison. Everybody's talking. They done spread rumors and lied on him. He has no voice. Yet he continuously encourages himself. In jail, the head of the prison sees this same aspect in Joseph that everyone sees along Joseph's path. And he makes Joseph head of the prisoners. Joseph, most times we get to the baker and the butler, we skip the fact that Joseph was in that prison for a long time before the baker and the butler came, friend. So it's fair to say that Joseph had been nurturing his gift and showing his gift to people all throughout that time. Because it would seem not likely that Joseph now, he's in the king's prison. So it doesn't seem likely that Joseph is just going to show that gift to these two people. What made them special? Do you know how many other prisoners came from the king's castle? This was just the one that actually manifested in something that could help Joseph. But Joseph was showing his gift. Joseph was doing what God gave him the gift to do all along. Because that's what the gift does, friend. You cannot hoard it to yourself. You can't. I've tried it. You cannot. It will create problems for you if you don't offer it. It will create an avenue for you to offer it, as it did Joseph. Because we could look at this situation from another perspective and say Joseph always had this gift of expounding upon his dreams, but Joseph was telling his dreams to the wrong audience. Joseph was telling his dreams to people that would never take that information and use it for something good. So Joseph had to be taken from that environment. And because God had made it so that Joseph would be equipped with everything he needed to be able to keep going through all the hills and valleys that God would lead him to until he found a place for Joseph to rest and to really expound upon his gifts that would help everybody else. That thing Joseph had, that resilience, Joseph had festered while in his father's house. And once he got equipped with it completely, God sent him on a journey. And many of you are going through that. A lot of the things that you're going through in life are because God is using you, friend. There is a method to the madness. Some of y'all in jail. Some of y'all feel hopeless and useless. You are never hopeless and useless unless you believe you are. You got to change your perspective on this thing. Always stand in the center. Don't ever allow someone to defeat you in your mind. Don't you ever see yourself being defeated on the screen of your own mind. I'm telling you that. Auntie is telling you this today. You don't ever let somebody come into your kingdom and defeat you. You are on a journey of self-realization. Period. And the longer the journey, okay, the better you'll be. But the journey is so that you can come in and out of things that will strengthen you and that will show you how God moves. And also at the same time, it allows God to find vessels that you can work together with or that can assist you, even if it looks like it's not assisting you, in manifesting God's greater will that you might not even have an idea of. Look at Joseph. Joseph is in prison. Joseph is expounding on his gifts because it's what Joseph does. He loves it. He's good at it. Butler and baker come. Okay. They need a word. So everybody in prison knows Joseph is the go-to guy. You need a dream interpreter? There's no one better in the world than this dude right here, this Hebrew. You got to talk to him. And they talk to Joseph. And Joseph tells them the truth. Because see, also, friend, a lot of times you want to hear what the word of God, but you don't want to hear the truth. Sometimes the word of God is a judgment. Sometimes the word of God is a criticism. The word of God is not always abundance and prosperity. No. So Joseph gives judgment to one and he speaks life to another. He tells the the butler, he says, you know what? Go forward. He encouraged him. Just like Jesus was doing, encouraging people. He encouraged him. The butler had faith in what Joseph said. The butler goes back. Time passes and he forgets about Joseph. And at the right moment, he brings up Joseph's name. There's something that you're doing. There's something that makes you you with your gift that nobody else has, friend. Your sauce is your sauce. And at the right time, someone, when all the dust settles, when all of them that has the same similar type of offering as you, when all the dust settles, they're going to see, oh, his sauce. That's who you need to call. Her sauce. Oh, that's who you need to call. It took the dust to settle. It took years until a very serious situation came upon the whole kingdom. And the Pharaoh of the most spiritual place on the planet could not find one within the entire kingdom, not even a slave from another kingdom, to interpret it. Because you remember what Nebuchadnezzar did when he needed that dream interpreted. See, these people, you think you can get a sharp, like nowadays we'll get people come up prophesying all kind of stuff without any type of accountability. Ain't nothing on the line. They just come forward and say, you know, God told me to do this. God told me that this is going to happen to these people. But see, back in these times, you come forward with something like that, it's life or death. You better not never let none of them words fall on the ground. They must manifest. So when you're thinking of Joseph and Pharaoh and the butler thinking of Joseph, because see, remember, the butler is already coming out of a tough situation with Pharaoh. Pharaoh threw him in jail. Pharaoh gave him a second chance. Now, one could say that Joseph interpreted it in doing divination work on the butler. Or you could also say that Joseph did prayer work to help this thing push through. If you were the butler, you don't really care either way. You got your job back. Remember, Joseph is a Hebrew. Joseph comes from the line of Abraham. Abraham was a master astrologer. These people could forecast out by the stars as to what would happen in the earth. You don't think Pharaoh knew? Abram and Sarah had been all up into Egypt. Remember how well they were treated? You don't think Pharaoh knew all this? The butler speaks to Joseph. Tells Pharaoh, I'm putting my name on the line here, Pharaoh. I know of someone that can answer this for you. That tells you a lot. Pharaoh said, bring him in here. They clean Joseph up, get him all right. He goes before Pharaoh. Look, before Joseph went before Pharaoh, nobody can tell me Joseph didn't have a word with God. You don't go before nobody like that, just out of nowhere. Just, okay. Now you done went inward and you got some direction. Just like Joseph could interpret the dreams, Joseph was good at interpreting signs and symbols. Joseph came before Pharaoh, and Pharaoh gave Joseph the dream. And not only, see, and this is the part, this is the magnificence and brilliance of God. His brothers only knew him as a dreamer. Yet Joseph had many gifts that he didn't even tell anybody about. These are just things that he paid attention to and that he loved to do and that he allowed to become stronger within him. For him to go into Potiphar's house and to become the master of that house allowed him to learn management skills, people skills. For him to go to the prison and become a head in the prison. These are two different dynamics going on. To be the head in Potiphar's house is a much easier dynamic than it is to be the head in the prison, friend. Because in biblical times, the prisoners, they're not like what we seeing going on right now. It was very hands-on. You're dealing with people that don't abide by any man's law. This is before a lawmaking system. These are people that live in remote areas that will beat you with a rock. I mean, like, very profane. And to be able to lead and direct them shows the type of nature Joseph had. In order to lead and direct them people, you have to be somewhat like those people. You can't just come in there with some kind of a management attitude. Them people will attack you. They will attack you just because the head of the prison made you in charge. They'll attack you just to humble the head of the prison. To say, I don't care about what you're talking about. Buck y'all. Oh, you want to put him in ahead of us? Okay. He won't be here tomorrow. And they will do it in the most inhumane way. This was that time. And Joseph knows all of this. Yet Joseph took control of that. He didn't run from it. He did it and made a name for himself so much that when people came, they sought him. Now Joseph is going in front of the head man of what he would consider the world. It don't get no higher than Pharaoh. Yo, I did this one before, but this is I'm telling you, I hope I'm conveying it. It doesn't get any higher than Pharaoh. And he goes before Pharaoh and he pulls from his gift and he allows his gift to flower out its petals, and he starts to show all of the other strengths he has. He shows his ability to lead. He shows his ability to capture from the now and forecast it out into the future based upon what he can see in the invisible. And Pharaoh is so impressed with him that he makes him head of the entire kingdom. Head. Now, you would think that after a certain amount of time, Joseph would fall out of alignment with Pharaoh or something would happen. None of that. Joseph knew how to handle himself, friend. You don't think there were people wishing Joseph could get caught up in something? This is highly political. Look, Egypt was the type of place where the priests ran Egypt. Joseph is in the middle of highly spiritual people, y'all. And he's in a powerful place. He already showed his spiritual prowess by coming forward and solving a problem that nobody could solve spiritually, and it not falling to the ground. A Hebrew. So you already know the priests were probably not feeling Joseph like that. because this is their livelihood. Yet Joseph comes in and he's able to balance it all and create longevity. So much so that his father, his whole house, his brothers that started all of this, that conspired against him and lied on him and sent him through so much hell, would come and be secure, and he would bless them. So much so that Egypt would be the birth of a nation by way of Joseph. And that this nation would have the advantage off of all that Joseph did in the beginning when he came in there. How could he have known to do what he did in Egypt economically so that these children 400 or 600 years later would have an advantage? Yo, this is the most hated man, one of the most hated men in the Bible by his own people. He was hated in his own house. His own house, his own people sent him on the path that would bless his own house in a way that they could never even imagine. Y'all, this was on my spirit, and all came from a video I saw about a lion. You better not never let nobody get you down, friend. It's okay to be down for a day or two. But you have to remember, you have to remind yourself, I don't care where you are in life, whether you are in the prison of someone's correctional facility or you're in the prison of your own mind in your own house, you had better remind yourself. I said this before. If you got to think back to kindergarten, friend, you got to go back to junior high when you didn't have no money. You was living in your mom and dad's house and people loved you. You must go back to the love of your grandmother over you and her words. You got to go back to that time in your life that mattered the most and you were most happy. I don't care what it is. You had better encourage yourself, friend. You got to. Because God needs you to keep going. God needs you to run this thing with as much fascination and awe to how it's going to end, because it's going to end regardless. But it sure would end well if you knew you gave it all you got. There's no losing in that. It's okay to get down. It's okay to take what looks like an L sometimes in front of people. It's only an L if you quit. You have the ability to change your mind at any time, friend. And you got the ability to lay it on your altar, whatever is stressing you, and ask God to intervene and to help you overcome. And if you align right, God will intervene. And not only will God show up, God will show out. I'm here to tell you. God told me this is the season of show and tell. Period. You weren't born in this life to get beat up by nobody. You are the child of the most honorable, most high God. And that God said that wherever you go, you are blessed. That is the promise over you. So it's not for you to convince anybody of that. All it takes is for you to know it and stand in it and to align yourself integrally to what it takes to keep that blessing pronounced and paramount in your life. And you watch how God show up and show out. I love you so deeply. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't come forward. I could be doing a million other things. Yet there's nothing I would rather do. Be good to yourselves and be good to each other. Peace and love.